My mother would be rolling over in her grave if she could see me here talking about why forests matter, because I grew up in the grasslands prairie of southwest Saskatchewan and in a city where there was one wild tree. And this is no exaggeration. When I was a kid, if I said to my friends, let's get on our bikes and meet at the tree, we all knew exactly where to go. It was a big old cottonwood just north of town by the side of the road that some farmer had ignored at the edge of his field and allowed to grow to the wonderful, may I say, sacred tree that it became. And it was so important to me that it takes up a whole chapter in my memoir. I'm just going to read the last two paragraphs of that piece. One year, I drove to the tree a few days after Christmas. It had been a bad holiday. Dad out of work again, Mum weary with worry. Its branches bare in the falling snow, the tree looked lonely. I wondered if, like me, it longed for companionship, for the moon to rest on its bare shoulders, for the red-tailed hawk to preen in its highest branch. When the wind tumbled through its boughs, was the tree less alone? Did it feel a presence, warm-blooded and comforting, when an animal curled against its trunk in the night? I wondered what it made of me as I stood underneath it. Ordinary, yet remarkable, the two of us were the only upright things for miles. Beyond us on all sides, fields unrolled their bolts of white, nubbed cloth to the darkening horizon. Now that the cold had come and the leaves had fallen, the tree had stopped talking. Its branches bore the blue star silence of the snow. I'm going to move you from that solitary tree to the Great Bear Rainforest, that stretch of coastland and ocean that reaches from the tip of Vancouver Island to the Alaska Panhandle. It's the setting of my poetry collaboration with the marvelous photographer Ian McAllister. Our book, The Wild in You, praises the forest and the trees and the creatures that thrive among them, including some of the largest mammals in the world. The first poem in the book makes a supposition that God may not be as many of us have imagined him. Perhaps in the rainforest, she is a grizzly. And if that is the case, what would the first day of creation look like? Genesis, rainforest. God as grizzly created salmon first. 5 kinds for the lakes, rivers, and oceans she had made. Next, the sedge, tasty in its roots, a joy for the herbivores to come. And after, still famished from her work, she crafted skunk cabbage, doused it with her favorite scent, then berry after berry after berry to ripen in the sun and the rain. Did she conjure birds then too, long before she clawed in the trunks of trees the blueprints for their bones? No one knows how long it took to raise the mountains or pin the stars one by one above the peaks, but she made time to design for her own amusement a Great Bear constellation. Tired then, with a yawn that sucked in all the air above her head, she devised the biggest sleep she could dream up and filled her dreams with falling snow. Before she rested, though, Grizzly tweaked the salmon so the ones who ventured far would return to the rivers of their birth, without number, without end, like the trees she'd build tomorrow, taller and greener than the rain. A good place, a forest draped with moss and mist, a softness, a quietude, a good place to send the soul. Photographer. What strange thing do you become when you spend all this time alone watching? Your third eye is a camera. Some days it's focused on a star that's been dead 1,000,000 years. For 1,000,000 years, the animals have followed the trails you shadow, have hunted, played, raised their young, where you're now growing old. The camera sits at the center of your breath. It knows your hands, the weariness of your arms and shoulders. When the animals draw near, there's too much for the mind to hold. You've learned to snuff your fear, to wait for the moment when the heart starts thinking. One of the beauties of the Great Bear Rainforest is that it is the home of the Kermode or spirit bear. It's not a polar bear, it's not an albino, but 1 out of every 10 black bears are born white. The beauty of opposites. A bear and a berry, so delicately balanced on that huge tongue like a sweet round vowel from a miniature's alphabet that makes you go, oh, and means more than you can ever say. Ian and I try to put a wolf in the photographs. Even when the poem doesn't call for a wolf, we get one in there. Rain. A week of sun. Now the great spruce sniff the air. Rain is coming from far off. Their branches stretch to meet it. The sound rain makes when it runnels down the bark is song to them, melody and naming. Sniff the air. What moves towards you? What black clouds ride the wind unraveling? Stand tall to meet it, this opposite of light, this dark shining. Being seen. Whatever watches from the shadows can smell you now. Startled from your body, what you are inside flinches in the naked light, not wanting to be looked at. Even now, you try to name the prickly patch of flesh on the back of your neck under your hair. Being seen has a skin. The air glistens with it. These photographs, of course, are all Ian's, who is a genius, one of my heroes. I'm going to end with a poem called Thoreau Said a Walk Changes the Walker. A rainforest changes the man, it changes the woman. Some were born with rivers in their blood. Their ancestors spoke with raven and fox, spoke with wolf and otter and blackfish, spoke with salmon and eagle and frog and heron. You speak to them too, and they talk back. Sometimes you're close to grasping what they say. That's how the rainforest changes you. Today at dusk, a bear walks through the eye of a camera. The old ones claim a man lives inside a bear. You tell no one a bear lives inside a man. There are weeks in the forest when your whole body is a word even you can't utter. but the trees, in their deep listening, hear. Thank you.